I've been inviting questions from voters during the campaign, and people have asked what I mean by inclusion. Currently, the township does surveys of residents, and whoever responds, responds. And the township is then making decisions and expending public funds based on those survey responses. That type of survey is flawed on a couple of levels. First of all, we're not getting a cross representation of people who live in the township. People who respond to that type of survey are usually either very happy or very unhappy. And so, what we really want is we want to hear from men and women. We want to hear from people across the lifespan. We want to hear from people with kids at home and people without kids at home, people who have physical disabilities and people who don't. So, you can think about a spreadsheet, and we all are, we populate one of the cells in the spreadsheet based on our individual characteristics. And then we draw a sample from that population. So, for example, say one of the cells in the spreadsheet has 800 people in it. We don't need to talk to all 800 people. We may draw a random sample of 5 or 10% from that cell. So we then make extra efforts to talk to that 5 or 10%, those 40 to 80 people who represent the 800. And it's like that for every different type of variable that we're looking at, gender, based on gender or age or kids at home and so on. And so that gives us a scientific method for conducting those surveys. It's not necessarily more expensive. We're expending money making sure that we're talking to a cross representation of people and not just people who are particularly happy or unhappy. Another way that I think those surveys are flawed is I think we're asking the wrong questions to begin with. We're asking about things like, what's important to you? How do you prioritize, a splash pad versus, restrooms at the park or things like that. Those things are, of course, important. Who would disagree? However, I think we're focused on the wrong things. I've talked a lot in the campaign about climate and climate change and these climate events. We've had two in the township since I've been here. First, the 100-year rain in 2017, which resulted in enormous amounts of flooding in the township and across this entire area. My basement flooded. I am not on a body of water. I am not in a flood zone. I lost everything in my basement. I don't even know what it cost to restore that. And then I do know it cost about $5,000 to do some work in my backyard and with my window wells to make sure it doesn't happen again. So we had the 100-year rain. There are parts of the township, like Texas Heights, where you could float a canoe in people's backyards. It was extremely bad. And then, of course, we had the tornadoes on May 7th. So these events, it's not a question of if they're going to occur again, they are going to occur again. We are not prepared in the township to respond. We are not doing due diligence to make sure that the township is safe and that to the extent possible, we are prepared and we're not making decisions based on these trajectories that are, it's no longer a possibility. It's these things are going to happen. So that gives you some idea of what I'm talking about when I talk about inclusion. I want to hear from everyone. I want to hear your opinions, and I will make extra efforts to make sure that we get that cross representation of opinion and that everyone's voice is heard. Everyone is at the table in terms of their opinions, and then how we're making decisions about expending taxpayer funds in the township. I hope if you have other questions, you will reach out. I appreciate your questions. It may take me a minute to respond, but I will. Thanks.